You have probably said it hundreds of times. Your friend asks you a question. You respond, "Okay, spill the beans. You mean to tell me the truth? Tell me the secret. Give me the information you are hiding." But here is a question most people never ask. Why beans? Why spill them? What do beans have to do with secrets? The answer takes us back more than 2,000 years, to ancient Greece, to a voting system that used black and white beans, and to a jar that could accidentally reveal an election before the votes were counted. Let us get into it. The most common explanation for this phrase comes from ancient Greece. In some Greek communities, citizens voted using beans instead of paper ballots. White beans meant yes. Black beans meant no. The voter would place their chosen bean into a clay jar or a helmet. At the end of the voting period, officials would count the beans to determine the result. But here was the risk. If someone accidentally knocked over the jar, or if someone deliberately tipped it, all the beans would spill out onto the ground. Suddenly, everyone could see how many white beans and how many black beans were in the jar. The secret vote would be revealed before the official count was complete. The beans were spilled. The secret was out. This explanation appears in multiple sources. The Scholastic Dictionary of Idioms describes the ancient Greek voting system using black and white beans placed into a jar. The beans were supposed to be counted in secret, but if somebody knocked over the jar and spilled the beans, the secret vote would be revealed. Reader's Digest also connects this ancient practice to the phrase's usage in 1900s America. The timing fits. The phrase appears in American publications around 1908, suggesting that the ancient Greek origin influenced its adoption in modern English. The phrase was not always used exactly as we use it today. One of the earliest recorded uses comes from a 1908 edition of an American publication called the 7 Points Journal. The sentence read, "He just walked off the reservation, taking enough insurgent Republicans with him to spill the beans for the Big Five." In this early usage, spill the beans meant something closer to upset a stable situation or ruin a plan. It was about disruption, not necessarily about revealing secrets. Over time, the meaning shifted to its modern definition. Today, according to Merriam-Webster, spill the beans means to reveal sometimes questionable or secret information of a personal nature. But is the ancient Greek story actually true? Some language historians have raised doubts. The first problem is time. The phrase does not appear in English writing until the early 1900s. That is a gap of more than 2,000 years. If the phrase came directly from ancient Greek voting practices, why did it take so long to appear? There is no continuous record of the phrase being used through the centuries. It simply appears in American English around 1908. The second problem is the lack of written evidence. Some of the earliest print uses of spill the beans come from horse racing articles in 1902 and 1903. In those contexts, it meant that a horse had upset expectations. It had spilled the beans by winning when it was not supposed to win. This meaning is closer to upset the apple cart than reveal a secret. The third problem is the word spill itself. The verb spill has meant to divulge or to let out since at least the 1500s. An example from Edward Hellow's 1574 translation of Guevara's familiar epistles reads, "Although it be a shame to spill it, I will not leave to say that which his friends have said unto me." So spill already meant reveal long before anyone started spilling beans. And the word bean has meant information since the 1200s, according to the Scholastic Dictionary of Idioms. So spilling beans could have simply meant revealing information without any connection to ancient Greece at all. The combination of these two words might have happened organically in early 20th century America. Beans were common household items. They were cheap. They were everywhere. Just as we have spilling the tea today, early Americans might have had spilling the beans. There is also another interesting connection. In ancient Greece, beans were used not only for public voting, but also for selecting government officials. According to a historical text from 1825, the Athenians used beans when electing senators. The names of candidates were engraved on brass tablets and placed into one vessel. An equal number of beans were placed into another vessel. 100 of those beans were white. The rest were black. The names and the beans were drawn together. Only those whose names came out with white beans were accepted into the Senate. This practice was widely documented. The Greek historian Thucydides referred to senators as the bean-fed because their selection depended on the beans. The bean was so central to Athenian democracy that the Senate itself was called the Bean Council. So while the phrase spill the beans may not have been used in ancient Greece, the bean was deeply connected to voting and secrecy in Greek culture. The imagery of a jar of beans representing an election result would have been familiar to anyone who knew Greek history. What is the real answer? There is no single, definitive origin. The phrase likely came from a combination of factors. The ancient Greek voting system provided the imagery. The American love for colorful expressions provided the timing. And the existing meanings of spill as divulge and bean as information provided the language. The first clear print uses appear around 1908. By the 1920s and 1930s, the phrase was common enough to appear in detective novels and everyday conversation. By the mid-20th century, it was a standard English idiom. Today, Spill the beans is used everywhere. In movies, in books, in everyday conversation. It has even spawned modern variations like spill the tea, which comes from black drag culture, where T stands for truth. So the next time you ask someone to spill the beans, remember the long journey of those two little words. From ancient Greece, where black and white beans decided the fate of politicians. From a jar that could tip over and reveal an election before the votes were counted. From a 1902 horse racing article. And from a simple combination of spill, meaning reveal, and bean, meaning information. That is why we say spill the beans.